Hi folks, it's Pete. I think I've just about recovered from doing Richard's you know, thread yesterday. Still haven't put away all the CDs though. So I thought I'd get back to some sort of normality and do my picks number 6, I think it is. But before we start and have a look at those records, one last reminder, my 200 subs competition is still run for another week, and then I'll draw the winners. I've had 7 entries so far. Thank you very much to everybody who's entered, all of them excellent. I've put all of them in a playlist, so if anybody wants to go and see them, you can check them out there. And if anybody wants to do another entry, please do. The more the merrier. Anyway, let's get on and see what's been playing, old and new. And start off with the brilliant Egg. This is an album called Saturn, a collection of radio sessions, early demos and rare live recordings, July 1968 to July 1972. It's an unofficial album on the French Verne label. Now, Egg were a prog rock trio from associated with the Canterbury scene, made up of Dave Stewart on organ, piano, and tone generator, who would later play with Hadfield in the North and National Health. Mont Campbell on bass and vocals, who I think also played with National Health early on but didn't record with them, as far as I know, and he's the main composer for Egg. And Clive Brooks on drums and percussion, who later went on to, I think, to play with the Groundhogs. They're like I said, they're a prog rock trio, sounds heavily dominated by Dave Stewart's organ playing. Brilliant. It's sort of psychedelic prog with a hint of rock in opposition. There's also a strong classical element to their music. Mont Campbell said that in the longer form pieces like Long Piece Number 3 and Symphony Number 2, he was influenced by Stravinsky. So on here you get tracks from the BBC Sounds of the 70s in 1972. You get BBC in Concert 1971, tracks live at the Roundhouse in London from 71 and 72, and tracks from BBC Top Gear in 1969. There's all the last side ends with 4 tracks from when they were known as Uriel. At that point they were a 4-piece with Steve Hillage on guitar. When Steve left, they were advised to change their name because Uriel sounded too much like urinal, believe it or not. But a brilliant band, one of my favourites from the Canterbury scene. Oh, and like most of the Canterbury scene, this is not po-faced music. There's a lot of humour in their music as well. So that's the first one. second album is this one, British Progressive Rock, Wild Turkey Wolf, BBC Live in Concert, 1973. Again, I think another unofficial album on the Maida Vale label. Back in the day, there used to be obviously you probably know there was the BBC in concert programs, and those concerts would be transcribed to LP for promotional purposes. And what you've got on this album is those in concert performances by Wild Turkey and by Daryl Weigh's Wolf. The programs were generally half an hour, so they fit one concert on each side. Wild Turkey were obviously Glenn Cornick's band, the original bassist with Jethro Tull. I think he did 3 albums with them. This concert's from the Golders Green Hippodrome, London, for BBC in concert in October 1973. At this point, also in the band, apart from Glenn Cornick, was Bernie Marsden, who went on to play guitar for Whitesnake, among others. And on vocals, you had Gary Pickford Hopkins, who I first heard of as the vocalist for Rick Wakeman's band, or one of the vocalists, along with Ashley Holt. They're sort of in a hard rock style with progressive and blues rock leanings. Very good though, excellent stuff. Great guitar and vocals. The other band is Daryl Weigh's Wolf. Now Daryl Weight was the violinist in Curved Air. When they split up, he formed this new band, Wolf, on Daryl Weigh's Wolf. Carried on pretty much in the same sort of vein, style as Curved Air. And in the band were, apart from Daryl on violin and keyboards, you had John Etheridge on guitar, who went on to Soft Machine and is still in Soft Machine at the moment. Dec Messakar on bass and vocals, who went on to play with Caravan, and Ian Mosley on drums and percussion. Ian Mosley, I think most famously played with Marillion. This is, this is great sort of instrumental tracks influenced by, classical music, some fusion. Excellent stuff, really good. And sound quality on this album is brilliant, by the way. Well worth having.
Wild Turkey! With us tonight, a band led by ex-Curved Air violinist Daryl Weigh. They are Wolf.
Denmark, and we have the band Secret Oyster and their album Sea Sun. Now, Secret Oyster were a sort of somewhat of a supergroup, Danish supergroup, who came out of the band Burning Red Ivanhoe, one of the biggest names in Danish rock, and also I think bands like Hurdy-Gurdy. This is pure fusion, brilliant fusion, reminiscent of Mahavishnu Orchestra, albeit a bit more sedate than the Mahavishnus, but excellent stuff. This was their second album, I think, from 1974. I think they did 4 albums, or was it 3 albums, and then they split up and then reformed more recently. But if you like jazz fusion, you're going to love these. Next up, from Denmark to France, and we have a fairly unknown band, an obscure instrumental band called Ocarina, formed in France in the early 70s. This is their only album, which came out in 1977, called Première Vision de la Tronche. They were a 3-piece instrumental band, drums, bass, and synths and guitars. It's, if you've heard much French prog of that early mid-70s period, bands like Shylock, then you'll know what really to expect with Ocarina. It's in that same sort of symphonic rock style, but with that French twist. This is very good, well worth any prog fan getting hold of. Stay in France for the next album, and that's this one by the band Eden Rose, On the Way to Eden. These were a precursor of the French prog band Sandrose, who are highly rated, but whose album I've never actually owned or heard, to be honest. But this is sort of proto prog, you know, with a lot of it's more psychedelic than prog, more in the vein of sort of the nice Procol Harum, that sort of thing, but instrumental. If you loved your lots of Hammond organ with Searing guitar, if you love lots of organ-based music, Hammond organ-based music, you're going to love this. Yeah, I thought this was excellent. This is on a reissue, actually, on the Spanish Guesan label. And back to Britain for the next band, and we have May Blitz. Striking cover. Is that way? Now, May Blitz were formed by vocalist guitarist Jamie Black and recruited Tony Newman on drums, who played with Jeff Beck, so it's no mean thing, and Keith Hudson on bass and vocals. Originally they had Keith Baker on bass, but he got a better offer from Uriah Heep and went on to record the great album Salisbury with Uriah Heep. But May Blitz are an excellent band. They're in that sort of heavy hard rock with proggy touches, bluesy psych. You know, they're classed as prog in much the same way as somebody like the Groundhogs would be. So it's like proto metal, but excellent stuff. Now we go to South America and to Argentina, and we have the band Ave Rock with their second album, Espacios. Now these are pure symphonic rock, very much influenced by both, I think, bands like Yes, particularly Yes. So there's a lot of some of the guitar on this album sounds a bit like Steve Howe's, and you get bass playing a la Chris Squire, but there's also other influences like Genesis and I think the Italian scene. Excuse me. So this is, like I said, is their second album. The first meant to be even better. This has been reissued on the Start label, the Finnish reissue label. They've done a superb job on this. Again, if you like bands like Yes, Genesis, Italian prog, you're going to love this. And we end up with the album The White Ladies by Dutch band Trace. Now Trace were formed by the great keyboardist Rick van der Linden when he left the band Exception. He wanted to go down a path that featured his keyboard skills to the full. Their first album, I can't remember when it was released, about 74, something like that, just called Trace, was the band then were a trio with Rick van der Linden on keyboards, his second cousin, Pierre van der Linden on drums. Pierre obviously very famous for being in Focus, and the bassist was Jaap van Eyck, who was from QB and the Blizzards and Solution, another famous musician, and that album is superb. By the second album, Birds, Pierre had left, and Ian Mosley, who we saw earlier with Daryl Weigh's Wolf, and went on to play with Marillion, he came in to play drums on that second album. By this point, it was a whole new lineup, and this is very much more a Rick van der Linden solo album, really. But this is not as good as the first two, but it's excellent instrumental. Well, sorry, it's not instrumental anymore. There's one song and there's a couple of bits of narration, but this is mainly instrumental prog, highlighting Rick's keyboard skills to the max. It's a concept album telling the story of a Dutch folk legend of the White Ladies who stole away a farmer's wife to go and dance and live a life of ease with them. There's about 19 tracks, but both sides, all the tracks segue together as, into just two sides with one track. Like I say, if you like sort of classically based prog with a bit of like Focus and a bit of ELP, and also probably to my ears quite a bit like the Swedish keyboardist Bo Hansson, if you know his music and his Lord of the Rings album. That's what this is like. Maybe their weakest album, but still well worth having. And this is a Japanese pressing, which sounds absolutely superb. Given this was done in 77, it's about nearly 50 years old, and it sounds excellent, quite as anything. The sound quality, brilliant. Anyway, that's it. Hope you liked seeing those. Hopefully next week we'll have a week off from one of Richard's threads. Sorry, Richard. But hope everybody has a great week. Everybody's well. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.